Electric Fire Book 2 Hidden Chains, Chapter 9.
I knew Shadow would have Metal Sonic attack me. I had to think of something, anything, and fast. Wait, there's more. You told me before you thought Gerald was a nice guy. He created you in a lab. After all, he meant for you to be a cure for his granddaughter, Maria. But he ended up creating a living weapon and a good friend. But something happened. You weren't compatible with the cure. He wanted you to be the cure. I took a deep breath. I tried to think of a plan as well. I only kept talking to buy some time. I didn't want to fight Shadow. Mostly, I was a bit worried on what Metal Sonic could do. Shadow looked at me, no smirk as I continued on. Gerald did stuff to you. You told me he got angrier after each failed attempt that he'd take it out on you, even though it wasn't your fault. He'd run experiments on you. Then you guessed he got sick of you for being around. On the Ark, he didn't care that Maria saw you as a friend. He wanted you gone. You told me that you believed that Gerald was the one to contact Gunn, that he gave them a false information, told you to get Maria to safety once they arrived. Gerald wanted to be free of you, so he could still work on a cure for Maria, but nothing worked out for him that day. The agents followed after you both. You were holding Maria's hand as you both ran. You were ahead though. A gun went off from behind you. Maria was shot. It was hard for me to tell Shadow that part. He looked as though he was trying to remember.
Then what happened?
He asked, sounding hopeful. Seemed he wanted to believe Maria was alive. Well, Maria had enough strength to get you to safety. She succumbed to her injuries after that. She died. Gerald didn't want anything to do with you, though he wanted you to get revenge on the world. But after we met, you didn't want anything to do with his wish, since the pain he caused you. All you wanted was to live your own life. Though Gunn were after you still, they still believe you are a monster. Shadow said nothing for the longest time. At least now he knew everything. At least everything I knew about him. He must be thinking hard about everything I had said. I just looked back at Metal Sonic. His electric red eyes met my emerald ones, sending me shivers. He didn't dare to attack though, at least not right this moment. That's when I should have ran. Shadow then turned to face me. I really didn't want to fight him. I guess I still saw him as the same hedgehog I once knew. But he's changed by the looks of things. I had nothing else to tell him, nothing to keep him busy. He just stared at me for a moment. I felt Metal's eyes on me as well. He gave a slight nod. I barely had a chance to take off. Metal already had me in his grasp. He had lunged at me.
It isn't like I have a choice on this one. He'd attack even without my order. He follows someone else.
Shadow spoke up. I struggled a bit. I managed to give Metal a decent kick. It caused him to fall back a bit. The kick left a dent where a kneecap would be, but then he was back on me after he staggered a bit. If this were a real hedgehog, he would have been angered. Shadow stood by and watched silently. I had no idea what he was thinking. Metal pulled back his arm, getting ready to punch me. I had no choice. I had to unleash my energy. I used my powers to drain Metal Sonic's power, at least for now. I wasn't quite sure on how long it would take for him to regain power. I didn't stick around to find out as the metallic hedgehog laid on the wooden floor of the attic, which was actually my room. I dashed off downstairs, took one glance back as I neared the front door. Big mistake. Shadow was right behind me. He was catching up. Seemed I forgot he could keep up with me. I opened the front door and closed it before dashing off to the forest, to my old cave. I didn't think Shadow knew about it. It's been abandoned for quite some time. It was easy for me to find it. The door only held Shadow back for a minute. It was enough time for me to escape, though.
Shadow's point of view.
I let out a deep sigh as I lost track of the blue hedgehog. The mission I was put on was a fail, even for Metal Sonic. I actually wasn't upset over it though. Part of me was glad he escaped. Honestly, I didn't want to see him as a test subject. I stayed at the house, listening to the silence while waiting for Metal Sonic to come back online. I had forgotten I had Sonic's bag in my hand, the rings, and the list still inside of it. I decided to read the list again. Now that there wasn't any noise, maybe I could remember all the things we had done together before what occurred. I looked at the list, but the words were a bit hard to read in some parts. Some were scribbled out instead of having a line through. I stuck it back into the bag before pulling out both my rings, the ones I was looking for before Robotnik made the bands. I then closed my eyes as I held them. I just had this strange feeling, but as I held onto the rings tightly, an image unfolded, almost like a dream. But it wasn't dreaming. Memories came flooding back to me in a wave. I knew everything now. I remember Tom and Natty, Carl, Tails, Rouge, and lastly Omega. I even remembered what Sonic told me before, his past life anyway. He too lost the only family he had when he was a kid. He came to this planet alone, no friends, just him in a cave in the woods. I felt that I needed to find him. I opened my eyes. I then went back upstairs to see if Metal had awoken. He laid still on the floor. Good. I then teleported outside into the forest. I left Sonic's bag in his race car bed, back at his home. I didn't feel angry anymore. Nor did I want revenge. Sure, Stone and Robotnik were kind towards me, and both had saved me, but I couldn't let them harm Sonic. I just hope he can forgive me for being so foolish. I remember what he said about Robotnik now. I walked around in the forest for a while. I tried to be silent, walking slowly, though leaves still crunched beneath my feet as I walked past on trees, stepping over roots. But then something caught my attention. There was a hole in the ground. I could see green eyes peering out from the hole, then quickly disappear. There was no way it couldn't be who I was looking for. I curled up in a ball and silently rolled towards the hole. I was inside within a minute, falling through the dirt ceiling and onto smooth, damp dirt. I uncurled as I landed. Sonic was heading towards the tunnel. Seemed he had another entrance. Sonic, wait! He paused, but didn't look back. I can explain. I'm sorry. I don't want to fight you. He then turned around to face me. I felt more guilty than ever. I really almost messed up. If he didn't take out Metal Sonic, he would be on Robotnik's desk in the lab. He stayed still for a moment. His eyes were on me, probably trying to figure out if I was telling the truth or not. I doubted Metal would be able to follow me down here. This cave was pretty deep, and it had a lot of room. I stayed where I was. I was trying hard not to threaten Sonic into leaving. It took a minute before Sonic decided. He stayed in the cave with me. He stayed back though, in case. Still not exactly trusting me. It was understandable. I mean, I was working for Robotnik and Stone. Now to the question. What are they going to do if I end up helping out the Blue Hedgehog? My mind couldn't think of a plan on if they'd go against me as well. It wouldn't be the first time. It wasn't my fault I was created. Gerald wanted me gone. Seemed he hated me for something that wasn't my fault. So he decided I wasn't worth saving, I guess. But I'm still around. At least I wasn't destroyed. At least after the gun raid. But why was I given a second chance despite Sonic's failed attempt to save me from falling? I failed my purpose before. But why am I back here? My thoughts were interrupted by a sudden warm embrace. I looked up only to realize Sonic was hugging me. I said nothing, nor did I return the embrace. I was left confused. He didn't say anything, but maybe I was put back here in order to help him. Or maybe something else? Something sinister? Maybe to help Robotnik and Stone? I couldn't. Not now. I just can't.